Hi guys, Togre here with a new video, and this video is kind of a surprise video, right? You know me as a Arms Warrior main, but I do sometimes play Fury, although sometimes I can do a lot of banter and hate on Fury, but it is a specific gameplay that I don't like about Fury. You already saw in my previous videos in Shadowlands Season 1, I did a Fury guide whenever people were actually putting Fury at D tier. I really believed in the Fury dream. But I want to show you a build that is actually not as brain dead, I would say, and it will be satisfying to play. It will be good. It will do some big amounts of damage from the get-go, and you don't have to build up or do a mindless rampage, bloodthirst, rampage, bloodthirst, rampage. You're not going to do that, right? You're going to actually do a lot more. You're going to press more crushing blow, actually. But I'm going to show you the build. But I'm going to talk about the stats as well. So I'm going to talk about the stats, the build. I will, of course, drop the loadout code into the description so you can paste it on your character and play that way of Fury. To be honest, I think it's the way that should be played, because I think the Bloodbath build, which is basically Annihilator, is going to get nerfed in PvP. I think nobody really likes to play against. It has insane sustain. It will be again nerfed in PvP, and I think this spec that you can play right now isn't as bad as you would think. It is actually on par. Of course, you will need a lot more APM, a lot more pressing buttons, and knowing that whenever you're going to burst, you will have to burst. And I'm going to explain to you how you can do that in the rotation section. I'm going to talk about strengths and weaknesses of that build, and of course PvP talents, and yeah, I think the rotation a bit, and comps that you can play in twos and in threes. And of course, we are going to talk about a bit about solo shuffle. I didn't do a lot of Fury PvP solo shuffle, to be honest, because I did a lot of threes though. But in solo shuffle, I did a lot of arms PvP. But I know what I need to do in solo shuffle to actually be successful as a Fury warrior. So let's talk right away about the stats. So stats wise, you do kind of want mastery. Um, I know with the arms warrior guides that I'm making, I say to actually go for crits and then haste, and to just not go for mastery. But as Fury Warrior, you kind of need mastery. Good thing is Honor is super easy to grind. I bought so many chests, to be honest, that really it is actually easy to get a second like tier set or whatever you want, or a tier piece or whatever. It's really easy to actually grind those pieces, right? And your boots are actually mastery verse, which is actually good for you. And in general, you're going to be good to go, right? So you're going for mastery because it will augment your enrage. So your enrage, so whenever you are enraged, you're going to do more damage. But whenever you are enraged, you also get haste. So basically, you will have around 30% haste, and you have a talent that will again augment the amount of haste you're going to have. So basically, you will have a lot of haste without building for haste. You can go for haste, but the only thing that is going to be good is actually for pressing keys, more APM, I would say. But I think the damage, if you want to do big amounts of damage with my build, you should go for mastery. Your crits will be high anyways, because you're a Fury Warrior. You have two weapons. Basically, whenever you're going to do a recklessness, which is pretty often, because again, whenever you're doing a rampage, you will get recklessness, so you will get a high uptime on crit strike chance. That's not as needed to actually go for. But and chance, of course, you want to socket everything. I need to change a lot of pieces, to be honest. I have the money for it, the honor for it. But you should go for mastery neck with, of course, mastery haste in your gems. It is expensive, so I have the money now, so I can actually buy that. So I will buy that after the video. But every piece that you see crits, you should go for mastery or haste, and to try to actually, I don't know, be successful. If you're a human, you can go for double trinket, like unused and passive trinket, the insignia. But I do like the medallion, especially in Soul Shuffle, because there is a lot of CC, a lot of micro CC, and sometimes that CC can just cock block you from a kill. So I do like to have my medallion, and being human is not really a perk anymore, so whatever. I'll try to get 10% base speed, so you will have the Plains Runner's Breeze, which you can have the best upgrade to get a 10% or 11%, I don't know. And of course you can have good braces enchant and cloak enchant, and on your chest you can go for the how it's called, it is the waking stats. You can go for that if you are cheap like me, or you can go for the more expensive ones with some primary stats and stamina. On your rings, I do go for versatility. I do need to change my rings as well, but I do go for versatility because I think having 30% verse is quite good to have, to be honest. Now let's talk about the build. Um, I'm going to go over on the class tree, but it is very, very basic. We're still going for Spear of Bastion because we do love our Spear of Bastion. We do love to do insane amount of damage, especially since it does go well with your recklessness, because you do crit a lot and often, which makes your Elysian Might actually be super, super useful, because you will have 15% increased damage basically on all your abilities that crits, and also your melee strikes and whatever. Everything is going to be augmented, so it's always good. Spear of Bastion doing more damage is something I like, and we're not going to play like a haste build. You like your auto attacks does damage, but we're not going for Annihilator, so you don't really need wall strikes, although it is useful. And we are not going for Thunderous Roar and Thunderous Words, because again, it is nerfed in PvP, like the Uproar one, and a 1.5 minute CD isn't that great in my opinion. If it was a 1 minute CD, I think I would probably go for that instead of Spear of Bastion, but Spear of Bastion is just that much better, and it pairs well with my build. Again, I'm going to talk about basically the things that are interchangeable. You can opt out of intervene if you're playing versus casters, which is not really that often in Solo Shuffle. You do play more versus melees, so intervene is always nice, and the extra mobility is also nice. But if you're playing versus a warlock or whatever, you can go for Wrecking Throw, basically destroying Dark Pact. You can go for Shattering Throw if you really want to like kill someone that has ice block, like a mage that ice blocks you, do Shattering Throw. Problem is there is so many mini CCs that really doing a Shattering Throw for 1.5 second second cast is very hard, to be honest. Every time I do Shattering Throw, people stop me, so I feel like by that time that ice block is going to run out of time, and it will be a wasted talent, to be honest. I also sometimes go for Inspiring Presence. That 5% is alright. I think the 3 seconds is also alright. It's not the best talent, but sometimes you do not have any value on other talents. I would prefer to go for Inspiring Presence. Second Wind is pretty much BGs, so if you are doing RBGs, I think Second Wind could be something you can go for. But to be honest, again, there's a lot of things that are actually damaging you that you are not going to have a lot of value with Second Wind in RBGs as well. I think in BGs, normal BGs, I think you can go for Second Wind without being really in problems. You can also go for a lower CD on Pummel. For me, it's already 14 seconds, so it will be a 13-second CD. You can go for that. I don't know if it's going to be very useful. The 5% wall is basically nothing. You're not going to... I know it does increase the damage you deal to them by 5%. I thought it was a 5% wall before, but I never take this talent as Arms Warrior. But basically, you're doing more damage on the enemy. It is something good. I guess you can take that, and it could be useful if you want to play more aggressive. I do tend to play more defensively in Solo Shuffle because people are just focusing me all the time. Especially as Arms Warrior. As Fury, it's a bit different because I have many things that can actually save my life. But anyways, I often do not take Wrecking Throw instead of intervene, depending on the caster team and such. Now let's talk about the Fury talents. It is going to be something that you might have seen It's not like everyone is playing that, because again, everyone is playing Annihilator because it's so much easier. Your sustain is also a bit higher. You have more dot damage, so basically if you're kited, it's not as punishing. This build is punishing if you're getting kited. If you're getting kited, you won't have a lot of value on that build. You have ways to not get kited, because you can play Blood Rage, basically a talent that I would like to have as Arms Warrior, but we don't. All snares and roots are cleared from you, but at a cost of 5% health, which is nothing. It's basically like one Bloodthirst and a half, and you will get that Blood Rage, like that HP back. But basically, what you want to achieve with that build is crushing blows, doing insane amount of damage, and your rampage also doing an insane amount of damage. In contrary of Annihilator, doing only 10% increased damage on rampage, which is often because again, every strike you're going to do is basically an Annihilator strike, so you'll have a ramp up on that 10%. It's not that bad. But whenever you're doing ranging blows or crushing blows, you will get 20% increased damage on your rampage, stacking up 5 times. Often than not, you do unload it after 3 times, so 60% damage, but sometimes I guess you can just spare 2 more to get 100% damage, and your rampage will do insane amount of damage. And sometimes it can be enough to actually make pressure by themselves, especially since Slaughterhouse got nerfed. I'm going to talk about PvP talents and how it got nerfed and how it can affect you. But basically, Sorting Strikes is a very good talent with this build. I feel like it's not as good as with Annihilator. Annihilator will only add you 10% more damage, which is not that bad actually, because it's still 10% and it's all the time. But having 60% minimum every time you're going to do Rampage is going to stack up very high, especially if you're like popping LCDs. People are just going to get destroyed with Rampage. So we have hack and slash. Again, you're doing a ranging blow, crushing blow build. So you do want to have a lot of stacks on raging blow or crushing blow. And whenever you don't have stacks, you do then do execute or bloodthirst, depending on the situation. If you have a sudden death proc, doing an execute is not that bad. But often than not, I do prioritize rampage, crushing blow, and then execute, and then bloodthirst. Of course, whenever I'm doing enrage regeneration, I do spam bloodthirst to actually be healthy, right? Frenzy, a great talent again that gives you incentive to go mastery, because then you can just stack haste with this plus the enrage buff, which gives you haste, and you will have pretty much like 40% at all times, which is actually not that bad. We're going, of course, with all the talents that actually improves crushing blow. So we have improved raging blow, we have cruelty, we have wrath and fury, which makes it actually hurt very much. Like my crushing blows, like one hit of a crushing blow can do 45k, my second hit does 20k. Remember, it's something that you can spam. It's not like a more strike that you have to prepare all the time to do like 100k like burst. Of course, if you're playing Arms Warrior and you think you're going to do as much burst damage as, let's say, like if you're a Fury Warrior, you come from Arms and you're trying to think that you're going to do as much damage as whenever you were Arms, it's not going to happen, right? You're not going to do some big hits and crits. But this is all the time. You will have pressure all the time, and the consistent damage of Fury is like very high, and then Arms Warrior is something a bit lower. But whenever Arms burst, it's going up, and whenever Fury burst, it's going to up as well. And then you have like a status quo where Arms is going to be a bit better in burst, but Fury is all the time at that state, right? And sometimes it drops, but when Arms drops, it drops like this. Like if you don't have Blazestorm with Unhinged, or if you don't have Avatar, or no Colossus Smash Up, and you're getting kited, for example. If you're getting kited, you're like this as Arms. That's the problem with Arms Warrior these days. I'm going to make a video about it. But that's the main problem. I think if you give Arms Blood Rage, like Fury Warriors, they would just go ham. The problem is I do get rooted, I do not get a dispel, or it's not dispellable, or my healer is in problems. I am just waiting like this. Arms Warrior. But as a Fury Warrior, you can just go ham, and go like do super well, right? Raging Armaments, again, more charges on Raging Blow. That's what you want, actually. You want to do actually a lot of Raging Blow, like Crushing Blow hits. And You might think you're switching from Bloodthirst to a Crushing Blow spam, which is true. It's still one or two buttons, three buttons, like spec, but I feel like you have more to think about. Like, it's not only self-heal that you're going to do, you're doing a lot of damage, and you also need to think that you want to actually stack those rampages stacks with slaughtering strikes. So I feel like you have more incentive to that, and there's more to think about than just passive damage, which is gushing wounds, basically having annihilate, basically having only two buttons to press to actually do damage, and not really thinking about those slaughtering strikes. That those things are interesting to think about. It just makes it a bit harder to play. It's not like the hardest spec to play either. I think it's still on the level of a demon hunter, but I feel like it's going to then switch places with BM hunters and demon hunters. I think Fury Warriors with this build is a bit harder to play than, let's say, a demon hunter, but whenever you play the annihilator build, it is just dropping into difficulty. Like, it's going to be piss easy, right? So now let's talk about the things that are a bit different than the annihilator build. Okay, you're going for all the crushing blows and raging blow modifiers and talents. You're taking actually nothing from the left side of the tree. You would say, look, Deft Experience looks nice, Blood Craze looks nice, but you're not going to do a lot of Bloodthirst, right? Yeah, Cold Steel and Hot Blood is a great talent, but it is nerfed in PvP as well, and PvE as well. Bloodborne, your Odin's Fury will do more damage, but basically what you want to do with Odin's Fury is buffing you with Avatar and doing still a lot of damage. It does still a lot of damage. I think the use of the Odin's Fury is doing a lot of damage, and the dot is still there, but it is not going to be the main component as, let's say, a Bloodborne Thunderous Roar build, right? We're playing with Ravager. You're going to tell me Ravager is a PvE talent, it is not really good, it is bad actually. Critical thinking is also very nice because, again, you're going to improve your damage on Raging Blow, but why would you take Ravager? Ravager is alright, but they need to stay in, and it's actually very hard to make them stay in. Well, I need to drop it there. Spear of Bastion. So what you're going to do is basically Spear of Bastion, Ravager. They will stay in for a moment. Of course, Ravager, the duration is a bit longer than the Spear of Bastion, but that doesn't matter because the damage is still there, and what we want is actually the Hurricane buff. It is nerfed in PvP. It will give you 15% instead of a 30% strength, which is still big, because whenever you're going to do a burst with, let's say, Spear of Bastion, Ravager, Odin's Fury, Rampage, Crushing Blow, Rampage, Crushing Blow, Crushing Blow, Crushing Blow, Rampage, and then Avatar, then you get the Odin's Fury again. With Recklessness, you're going to do Crushing Blow, Rampage, Crushing Blow, Rampage. People are going to die. If they're not, like, attentive at what is going to happen, just with this go, you're going to kill someone. Of course, you will have multiple goals. You will have to think about, look, am I going to blow all my CDs, or I'm going to spread my CDs to a point where they're going to use a defensive? I'm going to lay back. I'm going to do damage still. Some rampages here and there, some crushing blows here and there. And then go for Avatar go whenever they don't have a defensive. They will pop another defensive, and then you will just lay back a bit. And then you have Recklessness up, and you're going to destroy someone with that Recklessness. So there is a bit of thinking there. It's still a warrior, right? You still have some thinking to do. And you can blow everything and still kill someone, but it can also be happening that you're blowing everything into one CD defensive that the enemy will use, let's say a bubble or cocoon or whatever, and they're going to survive, and then you're like, I'm gonna wait 1 minute before I can blow my load again, right? So that's why the Ravager Spear of Bastion go is already by themselves a very good go, because it will give you a lot of rage, because 10 rage each time it deals damage. Spear of Bastion also gives a lot of rage with Bursting Verdict as well. Your Hurricane will do, again, make you do more damage. Of course, 15% strength is not translated with 15% more damage, but it does add up. And if you're going for an Avatar go, then you're going to add modifiers with modifiers with modifiers, and you're going to blow someone up, right? So I really like that build. And we go, of course, with Swift Strikes, giving you more rage regeneration and more haste, We have Reckless Abandon. I do like Anger Management. The problem is, I think Reckless Abandon is just too good I think that's not even a choice in PvP. I think in PvE, Anger Management can be good, but I think in PvP, Reckless Abandon is still the way to go. And you're going for Unbridled Ferocity, basically giving your Rampage a recklessness at all times. So you will do Rampage and you will have the Crushing Blows, and then you're going to do Rampage and Crushing Blow. So basically you will never do Raging Blow, right? Your Raging Blow will be at the bottom of the details add-on. You will have Crushing Blow and Rampage being like top damage. That is going to happen. And then you have Odin's Fury, of course, adding more damage, adding more burst, giving you basically a 45-second go, and you will have Avatar whenever you're going to press it. Just by themselves, like Odin's Fury is going to do insane amount of damage. You will have Avatar for a few seconds, but those few seconds are enough to actually make people hurt. And we have Titanic Rage instead of Dacing Blades, because we are not going to play an auto attack damage build and not be like an auto attack speed build, because we don't have Wild Strikes, we don't have Annihilator. So we don't have a lot of value with that, but I feel like Titanic Rage is quite nice. It does make more damage on Odin's Fury, which is 2 times to be honest, because whenever you're doing Avatar, you will also have damage of Odin's Fury, and it will grant you a few stacks of Whirlwinds. So whenever you're stacking up with your Spear of Banishing Ravager, you're doing like Odin's Fury, you're going to cleave a lot of people, and they are going to panic by that time being, right? So this is pretty much the idea of the build. It is not a revolutionary build. I think there is still someone out there that has like a build like this. I think there is many warriors that are actually playing like this, which is a good thing. I think Annihilator is a too popular build. I think it's going to get nerfed anyways. I feel like the playstyle, so they will nerf Bloodthirst, basically making it even less interesting to press. And whenever that does, I think the Annihilator build will kind of disappear for PvP, and you will see that kind of build play out. You can also go for Depths of Insanity. Personally, I'm not doing that. You can just remove 1 point, I think, somewhere. Never mind, you cannot. You have spent every point here. So basically, you will not go for Depths of Insanity. You could maybe remove Titanic Rage, but why would do? It's only a 4-second like longer duration on the recklessness, so I don't think it's very worth it. I did try the build without Ravager and go for Onslaught with Tenderize. So basically you will have, every time you're doing Onslaught, you will have a 100% Rampage damage, actually, because this gives you 3 stacks. You're going to do a lot of Crushing Blows, basically having 2 stacks at all times anyways, and then you're doing like an Onslaught into a Rampage and someone is going to die. Or at least it will do more damage. The problem is, I feel like it's very hard to not forget, I would say, to press that, because it's not like a super iconic ability. You have a lot of abilities to actually press. I mean, to keep on pressing, like Crushing Blows is still something that is going to hurt most of the time, and Ravager is something that you can pair up with Spear of Bastion. You just need to not forget it. If you don't forget Spear of Bashing to Ravager, you're going to be golden. But if you forget it, you can still do Ravager. It will stack your strength and your movement speed. It still is going to be good. But I think the value for Ravager is going to be much higher if you're doing a Spear into a Ravager. And let's say you're with a Windwalker Monk and he's doing Fist of Fury and Thunderous Strike. Pretty much someone is going to die, right? So let's talk about PvP talents before that we talk about strength and weaknesses. PvP talents, I want to start with Slaughterhouse. It is nerfed in PvP, and you might think I'm still going to take it at all times, which you should not do that. If you're playing with a class that has a MS effect, so I'm thinking Hunters, I'm thinking Demon Hunters, I'm thinking Windwalkers, I'm thinking other warriors, like an Arms Warrior, I'm thinking about let's say even a Demonology Warlock, you should not take Slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse doesn't stack if the enemy has a MS effect on them. It is not stackable because it gets overwritten by the other MS effect. So if a Windwalker does a Rising Sun Kick, which is not a rare ability to press, it is not going to give you the chance to actually stack Slaughterhouse to be 36%. It will just not stack. So you should remove it if you're playing with someone that has MS effect. Or you ask your hunter to not play Raptor or whatever that gives the MS effect. But that's not going to happen because Raptor is still a very good pet to have. So you should just remove Slaughterhouse and let other people actually have MS effect. And if you're playing without like a team without MS effect, then you take Slaughterhouse, which is still a great MS effect, to be honest. It's not bad, it just is a slow build up. So you will see that you will struggle to get 30%. So you can have 30% less healing done, but often not you will do around like 12%, between 12% and 24%. That's pretty much the average of Slaughterhouse you're going to get. You can test it by yourself if you really want to, but often than not you're going to get guided, so it will be between 12% and 24%, basically the same average as you had before. And the 36% is like a euphemism. It's very hard to get. I think you will have to actually have a lot of luck with frothing Berserker. You will have to have Ravager up, Spirit of Bastion up, Odin's Fury up, whatever, to actually get your passive regeneration up and going, to actually do rampages all the time. But it's not even worth it. So I would take Recklessness, Slaughterhouse, excuse me, only and really only if you are actually playing with a class that has no MS effect. I would even say it is worth it to play with a Shadow Priest, because they can play with Psyfiend, but it can get removed whenever they're doing Psyfiend. But it's alright, right? It's a 50% reduced healing. So I think it's still alright to let them do that job. But you will have like the MS effect at all times, except whenever Psyfiend is up. But if you're playing with a double warrior in Soul Shuffle, or you're playing with, let's say, a Windwalker or whatever, just remove it. Don't get like your hopes up of getting those stacks, because it's not possible. Because once Ryan's Psychic will just delete the stacks, which is then just sad for you to have a PvP talent that is not working. Anyways, that was the Slaughterhouse section. Now let's talk about the other talents. So I take Blood Rage at all times. There is so many mini CCs, many mini roots, mini slows, mini everything, that Blood Rage just makes it disappear. It will just make your life easier to not expect a dispel in Soul Shuffle. Of course, in 3s, in 2s, whenever you have like communication, you don't really need Blood Rage, except if there is too many roots or too many dispels needed. Blood Rage is like a high value talent. It's a 20-second CD, root and slow removal. Again, how many times do you get guided around by a Frost DK? This just makes it a bit harder for them to have Chain of Ice uptime, because it does cost a rune. It's not free. They're not going to do Chain of Ice at all times. So if you can liberate yourself with Blood Rage, it kind of helps. Evokers, that big root that they're actually doing and nobody dispels it, this is also gone. Those entangling roots or a steel trap or whatever, everything is gone with Blood Rage. You do not even know how much value it is. I talked about it in Shadowlands whenever people were not taking it because they preferred Battle Trance or whatever Enduring Rage PvP talent. But Blood Rage just gives you the consistent damage potential that you can have. If you're rooted or slowed, you will not have potential in damage. You will just have potential in twisting your thumbs, basically. So just play with Blood Rage. Give yourself a break. Give yourself some pat on the back. I'm a warrior. I want to do damage. I'll just do Blood Rage so I can stick to the enemy target. And 5% health is literally nothing, right? Death Sentence, not that great. You could play that because it will give you an extra charge, but the charge is very weird. Like, it's not like a complete charge. It just charges you at the limit of the execute. So I don't really like it. Barbarian is the ideal BG PvP tons. If you're doing RBGs or BGs, Barbarian is cool, I guess, but it's not my first pick. Battle Trance, very good. It does make you sustain for a lot. It's not as OP as people would say. It's great self-heal. It's great like passive healing. But Problem is, I do switch out targets a lot, so I do not get a lot of battle trance procs, because I'm not like tunneling on someone. If I know that the Resto Druid has no HOTS, I just go on the Resto Druid, because I can just one-shot him. So sometimes it just drops, and I feel like it is good if you are like playing in Soul Shuffle and you don't need Slaughterhouse because you play with someone that has an MS effect. Battle Trance is a good pick, so just pick it. But I prefer other talents. Enduring Rage is cool. I found myself not having difficulties in getting enraged, so I feel like I'm not picking that a lot. I guess it's cool if you're playing versus people that can actually give you a hard time with uptime. But again, if you have Blood Rage, the uptime is not a problem, to be honest. And you have double charge, you have Heroic Leap. Again, Spear of Bastion with Ravager, people are not going to flee out of it. Rogues are still trying to cloak it. It doesn't work. It's physical damage. It is not arcane damage anymore, like in Shadowlands. So they cannot cloak it. So that's a tip, guys. Spear of Bastion, you can use it whenever the rogue is actually cloaked. It doesn't matter. It's physical. So they're not going to run away. But AMS can... no, excuse me. I think the... there is something that a DK can do to get away, because that happens often. Evokers can get away out of it because of the stun that they are doing. They can just get away of it. The evokers can like basically ignore Spear of Bastion if they are good. Often they're not good, so they don't know, but they can just get away of it. But anyways, I digress. Death Wish, it's a BG talent. If you're playing with like heal bots, you can have some sick montages, but it's not like something you're going to pick in Soul Shuffle. But you're basically going to die instantly. Master and Commander, it's alright. I prefer it as our Arms Warrior. As a Fury Warrior, I would not take it. As an Arms Warrior, it just gives you 30% increased health, right? Plus, if you're going for Inspiring Presence, 35% in total, which is not bad. It makes people survive. If your friend is getting like actually battered, you can go for Master and Commander and help him. But the problem is, also you take it and then you think maybe a disarm would be better. And I think disarm is still clutch versus melees. False DKs, disarm it. Sub rogues, disarm it. Assassination rogues, disarm it. I would not maybe disarm an outlaw rogue because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't do that much damage IMO. At least I didn't really notice it. But it's a very good talent overall. So if you are not going to play Slaughterhouse, you can play disarm. Demolition, very good versus warlocks. Again, you're going to wreck them. They're Dark Pact. They're going to get literally blown. But it just needs a PvP talent for that. So you will have to make choices to actually remove it. Rebound, I do not play that. I don't feel like it's very strong. It can do 50% more damage, but I don't know if it's going to be very noticeable. And people just like remove it with Frost Shock or whatever, so it's a bit annoying. Blood Rage, already discussed it, and Warbringer does insane amount of damage, already critted for 45k. I think it's one of those talents that it's preference. I like to do 45k charges. Sometimes it can kill, sometimes it just is just a root for me. I like it because whenever I do Warbringer, it roots and has time to actually Spear of Bastion into Ravager. But you can also do that with Stormbolt if you want, or you slow them with Piercing Halls, 70%. They're not going to get away like instantly, except if they have a blink or whatever. But that's pretty much it. Those are the PvP talents I'm going for. So my combinations would be Warbringer with Slaughterhouse and Blood Rage. Basically, Warbringer and Blood Rage are insta locked for me. And I do change a Slaughterhouse depending on the situation. If I'm playing with a other MS effect, let's say a Windwalker, let's say another Warrior, let's say Demon Hunters or whatever. And if it's a Demon Hunter, I do get Disarm. If it's a Windwalker, I kind of ask them to actually go for Disarm, and I can take something else. If it's another Warrior, I can also ask them to go for another PvP talent. But basically, you can just try to communicate in solo shuffles. In 3s and 2s, you can just organize yourself with your mates, right? So pretty much, let's talk about strengths and weaknesses, and then we're going to talk about the rotation really quickly, and I'm going to shut down the video. And also comps. Let's talk with comps first. Comps, twos, you want to stick with a healer. You can play with a DPS if you want. I would then prefer to play with a Retribution Paladin or an Enhancement Shaman, or you can also play with a Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest is also quite nice. Healer, again, you can play with any healers, but my preference would be Mistweavers. You can play with a Holy Priest, you can play with a Holy Paladin, and you can have success with a Resto Druid or a Preservation Evoker, but I think those two prefer other classes instead of you. In trees, TSG, Ritual, you can play with a Shadow Priest. It's very strong comp, like WSP, basically. It's a Warrior Shadow Priest with a Shaman. WPS, that's the comp. You can play also WMS, basically Warrior Mage Shaman or Warrior Mage Priest or Holy Paladin, that's also possible. You can play with a Kitty Cleave. Kitty Cleave is insanely strong, just there is not a lot of ferals, but it's a very, very strong pick if you want to have a mate. Enhancement Shaman again, Turbo and Thunder, best comps there for them. I think Elemental Shamans do like Warriors in general, but I think they have better comps with Affliction Warlocks and Demonology Warlocks at the moment. But Warriors have the choice of a king. They can just choose whatever they want. They have basically so many great opportunities to pair up with other classes. My preference is with a Shadow Priest or with let's say a DK. It has insane value, insane burst, insane everything. You can also switch out with a Demon Hunter or with a Windwalker, but my preference is Unholy DK or Frost DK because they have a great silence. Like a silence can just be deadly for any healer, and if you're switching on the healer, you strangulate him, you're basically going to kill someone in that go. Strength and weaknesses of Fury. Strength, it is less kiteable than Arms Warrior, so you are going to have more uptime. It has insane consistent damage, which is kinda relatable with Burst, because it's kinda the same. If you have high consistent damage, your consistent damage just becomes Burst, and whenever you're doing Burst, it's going to be a bit higher, but that high is for a very long time. Like let's say Arms Warrior, that high can be very spiky and then go back down and then go back up, right? That's the main problem of Arms Warriors. You would say that defensives are the problem, but the problem is basically being kited. That's the problem. That's my problem as an Arms Warrior, being kited or like all around by everyone and everything. Weaknesses, I would say the Slaughterhouse now is a big weakness. You should not take it. If you have an MS effect in your team, you should just ignore it. The weakness is probably it's still killable. You would say that enriched regeneration is a big CD, but it's not that strong. It's strong, but it gets owned by dampening. So Soul Shuffle, you do feel it that you're not as as self healy as before. So that's why I'm not really as inclined as putting them as S tier like some people would do. Because of the self heal, not because of Slaughterhouse. I feel like it's still killable, but that's a warrior in general. I feel like warriors are not very like tanky. They are still very strong because it depends on the comps. If you're like playing versus a DK, you're going to wreck them. If you're playing versus an assassination rogue, you can really one tap them if you have like your hands around them. Mages are going to suffer versus you, for example. But overall, it's a great class. And I think my preference is still Arms Warrior. You guys know that. But Fury Warrior is something I was always a fan of before. I just don't like how they actually made the most easy talent build the best talent build possible in PvP. I think that's just not good. I think the design should be how harder it is to play, how better it should be. Fury Warrior is not really a hard spec to play, I'm going to be honest. I think a lot of people know, but you don't need to play a hard spec to have fun. I think if you have fun with Fury, which sometimes I have too, like so I play Trees Fury and also Trees Arms, and I know that Fury, it's dumb fun. You're going to do insane damage, you don't even know why you have 50k DPS in that fight, and that's alright, right? But my preference is still Arms, so you should know that. Now let's talk about the rotation. It's not very hard, to be honest, but you will see. What you can do, basically, so you're going to charge in, And if you want to do your go, you're going to do Stormbolt into Spear of Bastion into Ravager, and then you can just start your burst with Recklessness. You're going to do 2 Crushing Blows into Rampage, into Odin's Fury, into Rampage, into Crushing Blow, sometimes an Execute if you want, Recklessness, Avatar again to keep up the pressure, and you're going to kill someone. You have 50k DPS just with this. So that's pretty much it. So you're going to basically forget Bloodthirst a bit, because it's not worth it. If you have the actual empowerment of Reckless Abandon, just press your Crushing Blow, and you're going to do a lot of damage. And you'll see, I'm going to show you the details. Your Crushing Blow and your Rampage are top DPS. The first part of Crushing Blow is your main hand, basically. 47k crit, which is critting for a lot, to be honest. And then you have another crit, like for example, if you're critting both. And so it's a PvP dummy, so you need to shave off like 15% plus armor, whatever. So it will do around 50k, but you can spam it. You have Rampage to actually do your big strikes. Ravager, Spear of Bastion, that combination is already like 15% of your damage if it crits, or whatever you can do. Like for now, it hit it for 25k, but already critted for 60k in arenas, right? Ravager by itself, it can do insane damage. You can see it as a Blade Storm, like free Blade Storm, but it will not liberate you from CC. Odin's Fury by themselves also does a lot of damage. Like look at that, 27k hit, crit here, 15k normal hit. Except, like, again, you have a lot of ways to do damage. Your Bloodthirst, you don't really press it, except whenever you're doing like an enraged regeneration, you need to press a bit of Bloodthirst. And especially it's easier to do that whenever you are like in Recklessness. You can do that, and then you can just spam Bloodthirst basically. You will have great self-healing. So that's pretty much the video. I will make more videos about Arms Warrior, about Fury Warrior, of course with other classes as well, but I'm very concentrated on my Warrior. I managed to go into Rival with my Arms Warrior, like I was in the top 10 of the Arms Warriors on the ladder, but I did lose 2 times very badly, and somehow, some way I did lose a lot of CR, but it is what it is. I will grind a bit of my Fury Warrior as well to actually get I want to be able to do a tier list this weekend, because I've made a Excel sheet with every information possible, because I wanted to track the information that I actually wanted to give with you guys. And I will also compare with my prediction and this video that I'm going to make, and compare those 2 tier lists and see the places I'm going to give to every class and spec. So thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. I will for sure post new videos about BGs, about solo shuffle, about 3v3, 2v2, analysis, guides, tips and tricks, discussion videos. I will all post it on this channel, so please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Be sure to stay safe. We will catch each other very soon in a next video. Have a great day. Bye.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit.